What's up and welcome to Brando's World of X. So excited for this next guest. We had Ryan Sheckler on a couple of weeks ago and we were so excited about that one. And in that interview, he said that this next guest is skateboarding. Ladies and gentlemen, we humbly present to you now Paul Rodriguez. P-Rod.
Hey, what up? How you doing, brother?
Everything's good here, man. We're just we're hitting quarantine fever. I'm hoping
Dude,
that,
yeah.
we can get out. I just crave human contact right now. And this is as close as I can get.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're lucky we live in a day and age where we have this technology. Imagine back then when they were talking about the Spanish flu, like when you were quarantined, that was it. No contact. You couldn't even talk to nobody, nothing. Letters, nothing.
We'd be mailing our interview. Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, if even mail was running, then yeah, I don't know, but yeah, we're very lucky we have this type of these luxuries during a time like this.
You know, we talk about it. I'm just on Instagram watching you over the last month or so. I think, as you said, very fortunate to kind of do what you do and have what you have. It seems like you've been able to keep yourself busy, at least skating in the backyard and doing some different things at home with your workouts and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want this time to go to waste. You know, I feel like there's a huge opportunity in times like this. You can either better yourself or you can worsen yourself, I guess, if that's a word. But I just figured I wanted to come out of quarantine just ready to hit the streets running, you know?
Well, I want to get into a lot of different things across your skateboarding career, but I want to hit on, because it's so hot right now, the MJ docuseries that's been airing on The Last Dance.
Yes.
I assume you've been watching every episode, correct?
Yes, I've seen every episode and then some.
Yeah, it's come at a perfect time. I don't know if you know the backstory, but it was actually not supposed to air until June of this year.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. But I mean, people are craving content right now. Why not, right?
Captivated audience. But as I was watching,
I heard that it actually is beating the Tiger King numbers.
Whoa, that's a heavy audience.
Yeah, I read that.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Dude, we've been in quarantine so long. Tiger King feels like forever ago.
It does, right?
Yeah.
You're right. It's so 2 months ago.
But I bring up the Last Dance for multiple reasons. One, I know you're a big NBA guy. Obviously, you've been a member of the Nike family for 15 plus years. I know what Michael Jordan has been someone that you've always looked up to. But there was something very poignant in the episode that just aired recently about him signing up with Nike, and how at the time Nike was known as a running shoe primarily, and they were trying to find their footing in the basketball market. And
no pun intended.
He was apprehensive to like take a meeting with Nike. Crazy to think how the world changed. But then I think about you and Nike SB really trying to get off the ground in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Really committing to you as a skateboarder. And I was thinking, man, there must be quite a similar line between the both of you kind of agreeing in your respective sport, whether it be skateboarding or basketball, to buy in to what Nike was selling.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some parallels. You know, at that time, I got on Nike 2004. So at that time, you know, the skate world was very skittish on Nike coming in. I know Nike had tried before, a couple years before that, didn't really work. Skateboarders were very protective of our world and our industry, and we were skittish about a brand like Nike coming in and trying to take over. But you know, for me at that time, luckily I also came from a world where I seen my father living his dreams and doing his thing to the biggest that he wanted to do. So I didn't have the mindset of just like skateboarding and you know, only keep it small, only keep it this. I was always a big dreamer, so I was open to exploring that option. And Nike was the first pair of shoes, little baby Jordans. I think I have them in the room here, actually. I got a little pair of baby Jordans that were my first shoes, you know what I mean? So Nike was already at that time a part of my life. But the parallel was like, yeah, they were this big basketball shoe company trying to come into a skate company, and could it work? Would it work? And luckily I was young enough and open-minded enough to commit to it, and it, lo and behold, it worked. And today, look where they are in skateboarding today. So it was a little different because Jordan was taking a bet on them because he didn't know if this little upstart could do what
The brand
the
as a
other
whole.
companies could do for him. Yeah, but in my way, it was similar because I didn't know what this huge behemoth would do to affect my career in this small world. So it was kind of a little bit of a flip, but there's a lot of similarities to that. But I'm so grateful for that 19-year-old kid having no reservations and just jumping into it and going for it, because here I am still 16 years later, part of the brand.
The risk was there, certainly, as you said. And I think much like Michael, you both bet on yourselves, right? Because you recognize, hey, I'm not going to be pigeonholed into this. And as you said, at that time, especially early on in your professional skateboarding career, that was quite a risk because, as you said, skateboarding as a whole is so territorial and so protective that anything that feels outside or foreign is kooky, and that's like
Totally.
that's not core. Because a brand like Nike can come in with resources, but if they don't put the right people in place and don't propel it, and you and I know from day one that was always the mission, then skateboarding, can turn a blind eye.
Totally, and they did that already. Like I said, Nike had tried a couple years before I came aboard a total different try, and they closed that down, and because skateboarding did not accept them and totally shunned them away. But credit to Nike is they regrouped and came back. They didn't give up, and that's the kind of mentality I like to have in myself. But I'm glad it worked out. But like you said, at that time, I was real confident in myself, real confident in my abilities, and I knew that regardless of the chatter or opinions of people around that decision of mine, I knew that my skateboarding could do the talking and carry me through any turbulence.
Do you still have the reserved parking spot at Nike HQ?
Yeah. I do.
That is, for those who don't know, when you go up to Nike's campus, like every sport has its own building, right?
Yeah.
He has its own building. And I remember pulling up for meetings. This was when I worked at Street League at the time, and we had just committed to working with Nike. And I just remember pulling up in the rental car or whatever, and it was like, first parking spot, Paul Rodriguez.
Yeah.
How often does P-Rod get to like utilize this parking space?
Almost never. But sorry, my phone, my little setup here is a little janky. Almost never. I haven't been up there in I don't know, a good couple years. So
you don't know.
But when I
level executive might be parking there for all we know.
Oh yeah, Casper parks there.
Oh,
he sends me every so often. He sends me a photo of him parking there, and it shows me. But I like it. I like somebody's got to keep it, keep it warm for me while I'm gone. But I was psyched. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I just think the premise is amazing because it's an amazing ode to you and like what you mean to the brand. But I find it hilarious that like in the times that you might be going up to Portland to visit Nike's HQ in Beaverton, that like Paul Rodriguez is renting like a Ford Fusion from like
pulling up,
and like pulls up the whip and is like, "Oh, here's my spot." Like you aren't being driven to Nike.
Yeah, it's cool. And that I think came from because when in my early days with Nike, every time we would go there, I would ask whoever was driving me or whoever picked me up from the airport if we could park in Michael Jordan's spot.
Oh,
so we would always park in Michael Jordan's spot, and then eventually, as time went on, they honored me with my own spot. So it meant a lot. And now the next goal, hopefully, is to get the building named after me.
The Paul Rodriguez building.
That would be cool. Every a lot of their major athletes all have a building named after them on the whole campus. So
I think
That's the
it's
next step.
I think it's only a matter of time, Paul, because I think you're still in very rare air with Nike athletes, if I'm not mistaken, as
Thanks.
far as the collection of sponsored athletes that have 10 plus signature shoe models, right? It's like you,
Yeah. And
Michael,
basketball. Yeah.
Kobe,
Me,
and like
Michael,
LeBron,
Kobe, KD.
right?
Why am I drawing a blank? Michael, Kobe, LeBron, KD, myself. I feel like there's one or two more. I'm drawing a blank.
Maybe recently, maybe I don't know,
Mm.
Kyrie, I don't know, but
I don't know if Kyrie's there yet, but he's on his way. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm just honored. I'm the only skateboarder, only non-basketball player on that list, and the only one under 6 foot tall.
so I
So,
just last basketball thing before we kind
uh-huh.
of get into skating and primitive, but
Yeah, no worries.
obviously being LA born and bred, knowing how Lakerdom works, but certainly Kobe Bryant. I've always wanted, I've been wanting to talk to you really since his unfortunate passing a few months ago.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
know you were a big Laker fan. I know that you knew Kobe pretty well. Obviously, he had the cameo in your
yeah,
part,
yeah.
which was wild. So I would just be curious to kind of get your thoughts on just his legacy and just how crazy it is that he's not with us.
Yeah, man. Well, needless to say, it was devastating. I mean, he was one of them athletes that, or even one of those just celebrities or public figures that, like, he was like a superhero. You know what I mean? Like, you look at photos that people posted after, unfortunately, his passing, like other famous celebrity, legendary people, photos with them. They're all smiling in the photo like they're little kids. You know, he was one of those guys, like, the stars got starstruck with Kobe, and like he had that thing about him, and I think it's because whether you follow basketball or not, like, he had this thing about his work ethic, his dedication to the craft, his pursuit of perfection. It's something we can all take and use it in our life, and it inspires us all in our life. So um, beyond his legacy and stats and basketball and championships and what he means to the actual game, I mean, his contribution to just people in general is never going to be forgotten. And it was devastating, man, when I found out. I mean, that whole, I don't know, week or two after it happened, every day I would find myself sitting around crying at some point in the day, um, and just tearing up, and just not only because we lost Kobe, but in just the fashion that we lost him, and then the other people that with his daughter was with him, and just the other people that were with him, other children, parent. It was just like, dude, you know, just a kick to the gut, man. And it's just, I still want to send all love and prayers out to his family and all the families that were affected by that, because, like, imagine how hard it hurt the rest of us as fans.
Right.
Imagine how hard it was directly for the family members who, like, knew him. So I don't know if there's too much you could say about him, or you can never say enough about Kobe, but dude, that was, yeah, it just you it's not supposed to be real. That's not supposed to be a thing that can happen in life. you
You're
know
right, man. It's wild because I feel like no matter what walk of life you were from, you somehow,
Mhm.
even if you were a Laker fan or even weren't even to basketball,
Yeah,
Kobe Bryant was a cultural icon. And it was crazy. I felt the same way, where I just would be in a funk out of nowhere a couple
yeah,
of weeks after. And you're just like, whoa, I did not expect to take the passing of someone I'd never met before like this.
it's heavy, man. I mean, that just speaks volumes about the impact he had while he was here in that short time. And after that, it really made me start thinking, like, man, like, nobody knows how long they have, but made me really think, like, man, don't waste any time, man. Really take advantage and use every ounce of life you got.
So how are you doing that? What are the things that you're putting?
Well, yeah, so what's really kicked in gear for me is just, even though I always thought of myself as a dedicated to my craft and whatnot, I just started really analyzing areas where I was really slacking, and just being honest with myself. And so, like, for instance, here in quarantine, I mean, every day it's kind of like Groundhog's Day. I kind of have a schedule, you know what I mean? Not officially, but it's like just kind of ingrained in me. Get up, meditate, say some prayers, eat some food. If I have my daughter here with me, you know, we'll cook some food together, hang out, we'll go outside, shoot some hoops, and then I'll get a workout in, relax for a little while, stretch and whatnot, and then now it's super hot, wait for it to cool down a little bit, and then skate until it's dark, you know. And I kind of just do that over and over again. And every day I kind of have like a little mental plan of like, all right, what do I feel like working on today? How I'm going to work on it? What can I see myself? What do I want to improve on? What am I, you know, just like going down the checklist of just little nuances of skating, you know, and just trying to improve and come out of this quarantine ready to kind of prove something to myself. You know, as you know, I'm trying to come back from a knee injury, and I want to prove something to myself and show myself that I still have something left, and that I'm not going to let this injury dictate whether my best days are behind me or not. I'll do it on my own terms, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned the knee injury, and from the looks of it, it seems like it's been healing pretty well. The
Coming
pop
along.
used to be there. You know, you've really been fortunate, I think, for the most part of your career as far as health
Yeah,
goes. You know,
super
no
super
real
fortunate.
major injuries that
Yeah,
so many skateboarders, particularly in the streets,
yeah.
get impacted by one way or another. The fact that it's kind of happening to you now,
Hmm.
that while you can sort of embrace the fact that you've got a long storied career thus far, you ever just sit and go, damn, how did it just hit me now and not,
Uh,
10 years ago, 5
yeah,
years
yeah, all the time. I thank God every day that it didn't happen 10 years ago in my prime. I don't know how I would have responded to it then. I mean, I would like to think I would have responded to it similar and attacked it the way I have now, but I don't know if I would have had the maturity then, you know, and the understanding of the lesson in it then. But thank God, you know, as you said, it happened at this point in my career where, you know, I already felt like I had accomplished a lot and kind of solidified myself in skateboarding. Um, and prior to it actually happening, after, you know, looking back at it, I was kind of on autopilot the last few years. You know, I was kind of like just happy with skateboarding, happy with what I've done, and not really pushing myself to improve, just kind of like, you know, just kind of coasting on what I've already have, you know, the skills I already had, and just kind of just flowing with it. And as they say, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So I was basically fixing to just go on a downward slant. And then this injury happened and it just shook my whole mentality up. Like, look, you can either take this as a sign of like, okay, maybe that means like, you know, you've had your best days and it was a good run, and, you know, take your ball and go home. Or you look at it as a new challenge of like, okay, yeah, you're a little older now. Up until this, you had no real injuries, so my whole body, you know, feels still really good. Um, do you want to go out like that? Do you want to go out like this way, or do you want to go out on your own, on your own terms? So I decided to take the latter route and work really hard and dedicate myself to healing. And I'm still healing. I still feel it. I'm still, you know, not quite all the way there, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm ready to contribute something. I guess my own last dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, wow, that's cool to hear. But like, so what's the goal for you? I mean, is it to put together a video part that you've been wanting to put out? Is it to skate in another contest? Is it to qualify for something? What is it? What is that end game goal, or is it plural?
Well, yeah, there definitely. I would love to film another strong video part. Um, and as far as competitions, I have bounced that around in my mind. I'm waiting till like there's absolutely no pain left in my knee to really make that decision in my mind. And I know a lot of other people are really bummed, but I almost looked at it as like, well, shoot, like, unfortunately, the Olympics got pushed back this year, and I knew for sure I wasn't even thinking about it, because I was like, dude, I'm just not there. I'm not ready. It's not just not in the cards for me right now. But got pushed back to next summer. I was like, well, shoot, that actually does give me a chance if I really wanted to go for it. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I would or wouldn't, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of dancing in my mind a little bit. But right now, the focus is get back in the streets, get some real good quality footage, and not just like, oh, hey, it's cool to see you back skating, but like stuff that like is still strong compared to what's going on these days. So for me, if I can do that, I'd be really proud of myself, and anything else would be icing on the cake.
The tough part is, and we had this conversation when we interviewed Ryan Sheckler a couple of weeks ago, and that is, it's the blueprint for kind of that next chapter in skateboarding. It's not as defined as once an NBA player retires or an NFL guy retires. You've been really fortunate, I think, because you've taken some chances with some different startups and business ideas, and obviously Primitive in the midst of your career. So you always had your hands in multiple jars. But I've always been fascinated by guys like yourself or Ryan or Chris Cole, who have made a career on magazine covers and film parts and winning contests, to all of a sudden going, I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm willing to contribute.
Yeah.
What's that next, 5 years look like for me,
Sure. Well, for me, in a perfect world, I'd love to become an actor, like a working actor. Last 3 years, I've been steadily taking acting classes, going on auditions. I booked a couple little parts. So for me, that'd be like, God willing, in a perfect world, to be able to transition to a working actor.
Take over the family business.
It'd be great. In a perfect world, I've already done a couple little parts that really, started giving me confidence. So I just need to, at some point, really buckle down and put the energy that I put into skateboarding into the craft of acting. I've been doing it, taking classes, but especially since I got injured, like, my brain is still like, yo, I got some unfinished business in skateboarding,
What is like Paul Rodriguez going to an acting class? Like, is it like one-on-one? Is it like in a group
No,
setting?
It's a group setting. Yeah, it's a group setting.
Really?
Yeah. So I go to this place called Spicer Sturgis it's off La Cienega on the 10 freeway. And I go to the scene study class. I've been in there 3 years now, so I'm in scene study 2. Although we've been doing Zoom classes now since obviously the epidemic. But yeah, like every week you go to class, the teacher will pair you up with somebody and give you a scene from a certain script. And then you guys go home separately, work on it on your own, and then you bring it into class and perform it for the class every week. And the teacher will critique you guys, give you notes, tell you what to work on, take it back home, come back next week, redo it until the teacher says you guys are good, get a new partner, on to the next scene. You just keep repeating that to try and, just improve it. And I love it, man. It's so much fun.
So this is wild to me. So what's the dream part, or like show or series, or like, is it a movie? Is it TV? Is it something like what would be a dream role for P-Rod?
Ooh, it's hard to say, man. I mean, but what I would say is like this day and age where we're in right now is probably the best time for actors, because you got Hulu, Netflix, everything, all these platforms and movies. So there's so many projects constantly going on. So the way I look at it is there's so much more higher chances of booking something. At this point, I'm just kind of like exploring and feeling out the type of things I like to do. I fortunately recently just booked a part, a pretty decent part in a Netflix show. It's going to be about Selena, the singer. Selena the series. I booked a little role as the guitar player in her band. I'm being like 5 episodes, and we shot that towards the end of last year. I finished in about January this year, so you'll see me a little bit in that series in the first season. I don't know when it's going to air. They were talking maybe later this year, but I don't know with all this epidemic if it's been pushed back or not. But that was really good experience, and I got to work with some really experienced actors and make some good friends with them. So now I'm just back here, and unfortunately the epidemic's going on, but I'd be out in auditions like left and right, you know? So yeah.
That is such a trip. Oh my God, man. My wife's going to lose it. She's the biggest Selena stan in the world. So
sick.
the fact that they're making a series on Netflix, that's gonna hype her, because she watches it at least 2 or 3 times the movie, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're in it, that's amazing. That's so
rad. I'm really
so
excited. It's great.
So then it's a different world. Obviously, I know like Cersei has been your agent forever on the action sports side when it comes to that. So you gotta get like a full on like talent agent.
Yeah. I got a manager by the name of Andrew Tenenbaum and an agent at ICM by the name of April King, and they just they took me in, and they took a little bet on me, and then they sent me out and on auditions. And you know, I've been going out probably the past 2.5 years, and I just once again thank skateboarding, because it taught me the mentality is like, if you want to learn a trick, you're gonna fail 1 trillion times so you finally land it once, and then you got to fail a bunch more to land it again, and then finally slowly but surely you get consistent at it. So that's the way I'm approaching auditions. I go in on auditions, whatever the role is, sure, I'll try it out. Sometimes I go in there, I feel like a moron coming out like, oh my God, I just embarrassed myself in there. Or sometimes I'm like, oh, I felt good in there, and I never expect to get the call back to like, we liked what you did, come on back. It's like skateboarding. You just go, you just try, and I just know at some point I'm gonna land this. At some point I'm gonna land it. I just go and go and go, and I think that mentality has really helped me out, because I don't get discouraged, you know.
Well, I hope you do land something in a big series or a movie, but
that'd be great.
I would sign up. I would binge watch a series, like an Entourage style series of people
that'd be great.
trying to become an actor. Like I would watch that show.
There you go. I like that. Let's sit down and write that.
Sign me up. I'm EPing this. Let's go sell it right now.
I like it. Let me know.
You talked about skateboarding and how it's kind of primed you for this. I know you've probably been asked this a million times, but I want to know, and I think, you know, XGames as a whole wants to know, how did you get so damn good at skating?
I mean, thank God, I just really enjoy being on my skateboard, and you know, the people I grew up watching and really like gravitating towards, you know, Eric Costin, Tom Penny, Andrew Reynolds, but like specifically Eric Costin and Tom Penny were very like good regular and switch. They were very seamless how they would switch back and forth, and I was always fascinated about that. Even as a kid, like you know, when I was a little kid before I skated, as you could see, this was my first guitar I ever had. I used to play guitar before I started skating, and I'm left-handed by nature, but for some reason I played guitar right-handed comfortably. And then my favorite guitarist, Jimi Hendrix, he would play left-handed. I'll be like, wait, I'm a lefty. I should be playing lefty like Jimmy. So I trained myself to play both, so I could play guitar both ways just as bad. And then when I was a little kid, I don't know, I was always fascinated with this like idea of being balanced on both sides. So when I found out in skateboarding that there's a regular and switch and all of that, I just knew that I wanted to be that guy. And so I just became fascinated by it. And I thought it was something that would help me to stand out, because it was still not something when I was coming up that like everybody did. Every time somebody did something switch, it was really emphasized. It was switch, that's switch. So I was like, all right, this is going to help me stand out. And basically what I did is it's pretty simple. Like the technique to the trick doesn't change, right? Like doing a regular kickflip or doing a switch kickflip, the science behind how the trick is done is exactly the same. So it's not like I have to like rethink and learn of how the trick should be done. I know how it's supposed to be done. Pop, flick, cat. So I just had to like take it slow and just watch myself do it regular and just try and mirror and copy myself exactly. And I don't know, for some reason, like I just nerded out on that. And I just, once I would learn switch kickflip, then I would get so hyped. Now what? Switch heel flip, and then just build on, just like any other trick in skateboarding. But for whatever reason, I just had this weird fascination with being equal on both sides.
I still, one of my favorite memes, and it pops up. It's been up for like 5 or 6 years if you scroll through Instagram. But it's always that photo of you smiling, and it's like, "Are you regular or are you goofy?" You're like, "Yes." That's still like, I don't know why. That's still like one of my favorite skateboards.
I've seen that one, man. And kids always message me all the time, and they hit me with, "Are you regular goofy?" And I'll hit them back with the yes, and they'll be all hyped. That's super flattering. Yeah, 13, 14-year-old Paul would be geeked out that people think of him like that. So I'm appreciative, and 35-year-old Paul appreciates it too.
Talk to me about that. Obviously, your contest career speaks for itself, certainly, and we'll get into some specific contests. But I would love to go back, especially at that time, the early 2000s. X Games had really sort of legitimized itself as a true contest, and I think it was really getting its footing as far as street events were concerned. Do you remember that first X Games
that I skated?
Yeah.
Side of Staples Center, 2003, man. Costin won that thing. Muska won the best trick. I don't remember what I placed that day, but I was just hyped because at that time it was
bronze. I think you were bronze.
Maybe.
I think you got a medal.
Really cool. Oh, sweet. All right. I think at that time, maybe still is. I've been out of the loop a little bit, but at that time it was invite only, based on demand or whatever. And I was just super honored that I got invited with, Costin, Chris Cole, Bastion. I'm trying to think who else is there. Obviously Muska, Reynolds. I forget who all the full lineup was, but like I was invited with the people that I look up to and came up watching videos of. So it just started feeling real cool once like my skate career started like evolving like that. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And at that time I wasn't, I did grow up skating castle contests. For those who don't know, it's like the little league for skateboarding. I skated those all the time when I was a kid. And, but I hadn't skated them for a couple years, and like I was all street, like it's all about streets, all footage, video parts. So I came in with no pressure, no expectation of myself. I was just hyped to skate with these guys, and the side of Staples Center, it was a street spot. So I was like, oh, this is, my element. And it was great. It was just great, just watching all that go down.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the next year, 2004, I think you won gold, right? That was your first medal, right?
Yeah, I won, 2004. That was just like a perfect storm. I had just got on Nike. I was wearing the Cinco de Mayo dunks. I still got them saved. And it was just, again, I was there, but it was no pressure, no expectation on myself. And it was just like, yeah, sure, I got invited again. Cool, I'm psyched, have fun. I liked the obstacles that they had. And it was like the jam format back then. And I just went out and just was free and was able to just do what I do. And it worked out. And that was the first contest I won as a professional. And so from there, I kind of got the bug. Like it was kind of like a shark smelling blood and water. From there, I was like, all right, I want to keep this up. I like this feeling of holding the gold medal. I want to see if I can keep doing this.
Well, that's cool that there was this looseness early on in your career. Yeah. And was it that once you did get that win, and maybe there was a little more expectation, did things start to tighten up for you a little bit? Like,
at times, I really had to learn how to approach the mental aspect of it for sure. At times after that, I was fortunate enough to win 2005 again, back to back. And I remember that second year, or 2005, I came in like, all right, I won last year. Like, I remember it being in my head, like, can you do it again? Let me see if you can do it again. But I was able to still, I think at that time, 19, 20 years old, you're still still kind of naive, and I was still like skating, or I mean, I still do skate a lot, but at that time I'm still skating like 8-9 hours a day nonstop. So it was just like I was so sharp at that point, and the nerves still weren't too aggressive, I guess. The next year they got to me. Then I was like, oh, 2 years in a row. No, can you do a third? That's the next year, 2006. I remember being like, oh, real nervous at the Home Depot Center.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was indoor at that that space. I remember that.
Yeah, the Velodrome.
Velodrome, yeah. Who won that? Was that Chris Cole or Lutzka maybe? It might have been Chris Cole. But
yeah, maybe.
Speaking of pressure and contests, I do remember a particular street league. I want to say it was 2013 when we were in Portland. And that was crazy. It was at the Rose Garden. Obviously, Nike was getting ready to release that shoe of yours, which I still love. That the tiger stripe one.
7.
So it's like
the 7.
I remember the ad for it with Blake from Workaholics doing the tour guide. Everything. It was P-Rock week, and I know you were being pulled in so many ways. And I think the expectation was like, Paul's got to win. The pressure, Nike, Portland, like he hasn't won a street league yet. Like everything felt like culminating for you in that moment.
Yeah. No, correction. I had won a street league at that point. My first one was in Arizona, 2012.
Oh, Arizona the year before.
But that time, like, I think, but by that time I had grown to love that kind of pressure. I loved it. I loved the way the nerves made me feel, like the butterflies in my stomach. And like, I just learned to like really just love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was times where like I couldn't pull it together, and the nerves and everything would get to me, but I just loved the mental game. Like, can I beat myself? Because the pressure from everybody else didn't feel like pressure to me, because nobody wanted me to win more than I wanted me to win. You know what I mean? Like I think probably anybody can tell you that who's been in those type of situations. Like, you have the most highest expectations of yourself, so anybody else doesn't really overcome that. So I just wanted to win, and that day I was able to keep my mind calm. My game plan worked out, and just I was able to stay loose, and God, it all kind of worked out and came together. And I've been fortunate a few times in situations like that where like it was like a big kind of moment around that for me personally, with a shoe dropping or something like that, and I ended up winning the event that was all coming out around, and it worked out. Nothing can beat that high, man. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. And
Oh, that's powerful. And that's honestly what makes you one of the all-time greats, because I think about it through the lens of, and we build it up right on TV. From a broadcast perspective, it's all about stories or rivalries.
For sure.
Even though you're from LA, it's like this homecoming because it's Nike turf, and like
right.
The pressure for Paul Rodriguez to win with the shoe drop and all the signs. If there was ever a home course advantage, like it's right here. And I'm just thinking like, man, to like rise up in a moment like this, that's pretty extraordinary. But
it's definitely a high that you can't recreate, man. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit, a step back again. I know I've been referencing Shex, but I want to highlight your guys' friendship and sort of relationship for years, because Ryan mentioned to us how very early on in his skate career, he was so young and talented, but didn't quite know sort of where he fit in kind of this pantheon of like skateboarders that he looked up to. And because he was so young, there was some level of like, if not hate, just sort of like, it's more of a curiosity. So it's hard to become.
No, he had a tough run of it there for a while, as far as acceptance from, I guess, the cool guys or whatever, for sure.
Right. And of course, the MTV show came pretty early on in his career too, and
yeah.
probably turned some of the core off. But he always mentioned, he goes, Paul was one of the first dudes that kind of like really showed me love, and like we created friendship very early on. And he goes, I still look at that as like that's what gave me the confidence to feel like, oh my God, if I'm accepted by P-Rod, I know I take that takes some weight off. I was just curious what you saw in Ryan kind of early on when you guys first started skating together.
Well, I first met Ryan when he was about 8 years old. He was hold on one second. Hey, love. Oh, thank you. Thank you, baby. I'm on my interview right now. Well, then we're gonna walk a bit. Okay, love you. Sorry, my little one is telling me she just did her homework, did her math lesson.
I got a 2.5-year-old upstairs going. When are we going outside to play? I'll try to wrap it up. Sorry.
No, don't worry. We could talk. I love talking, man. It's great. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I met Ryan. He was about 8 years old. I met him at a castle contest. He was in the age group younger than me, and I don't even know if he remembers me then, because like I didn't really have a name for myself or whatever. I believe then he was skating for what was called factory, which means like you had sponsors. It was in the factory category, and I didn't have any sponsors at that time. I was just entering, and he was like 8 years old, and he won the contest, and I was fascinated with. I've always been attracted to winning and glory or whatever, you know what I mean? As some skaters and skateboarding, think of that as a taboo or whatever. I never really went down that road. I always I was okay with being okay with trying to win or trying to do my best. And I seen that in Ryan. And then when I remember the first time really talking to him was at a Tampa Am, maybe 2001. And just talking to him, he was just cool. He was way younger, and he was just a cool kid. And I don't know, we would always he just had a real hunger to skate. We would always, I don't know, some about us just really clicked, and he was one of the first people I really admired his mentality, because especially early on at that time, he was the guy winning all the contests all the time. And I really admired his ability to be consistent mentally, mentally consistent, which made him consistent in the contest. I don't know. I admired that he was so young, and he went for that success. Like, this is skateboarding. It's a small world. How rare is it, especially at that time, that a kid can really make a huge career for himself and, and set himself up for life. Like I was always fascinated by being able to do that. And it's really hard to do it in, I guess, for lack of a better word, the action sports world. There's very few people who can really transcend and make it a big career. And that was always just something that I aspired for myself. And I love being around people who have that energy, because, all ships rise with the tide. You hang around with losers, you're going to be a loser. You hang around with people who are ambitious and want to do great things. A lot of that energy is going to rub off on you and inspire you to push yourself. So it's kind of how I always liked it. And it was crazy because he's 5 years younger than me, but I felt like I was learning so much from him.
Yeah, same. I've always been somewhat puzzled. I understand skateboarding, and I get the way the core mentality works. So it doesn't surprise me, but to your point about dominance and winning contests, I think you guys also came up at a time where there was a distinct division between contest skater versus skateboarder who filmed parts and magazines, stuff like that. And I look at now I look at like Nija and like what he's able to do. You guys really paved the way for that. And he got hate early on because he was winning all the time. Everyone's like, someone else needs to win. And I'm like, what else is he supposed to do?
Dude, I love him, dude. I love him. And going back to the point of like the video filmer and the contest skater, like I always felt like, hey man, like if you're the real deal, why can't you do both?
Right.
Why can't you dance in both worlds, you know? And I don't, not take away from anybody who just decides to be video or decides to just be contest, but I always like, I like those different kind of challenges, not only just the challenge of learning new tricks, hard tricks, but I like the challenge of going out and filming a video part. It's a completely different challenge than skating a contest. So I like those different challenges and seeing what I can do with them. But yeah, back to Niger, man, like I love it. I've never seen somebody with that kind of bulletproof mind. Bulletproof, like no phase in him, no matter what. And as it shows you, no matter the hate cannot stop that. No matter who hated him or who, dude, doesn't matter what you had to say. It only made him better. It reminds me a lot of like Jordan in that aspect. The mentality. I remember at Street League, like even people at Street League would be like, "All right, man, he's winning all the time. Like maybe we gotta make the obstacles a little high, like the hub higher, redesign the course so it doesn't favor his style of skating and make it for someone else, even the playing field." And still, he would come through, knock us all over the head. I love it because that's just the type of, you know, personality trait like I would aspire to have. So when I could see a real life in front of me example, that's great. And I just think that the fact that some people would be like, "Oh, he can't be winning," that speaks to their mentality and where their head is at. Like, sorry if that's how you think, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I also think like the duality of skateboarding, like to be able to win a contest and put out a banger video part or get photographed for the magazines, at the end of the day, you got to be really effing good at skateboarding, period. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle. I think that times are a little different now compared to say 10 or 15 years ago. I think the lines are more blurred, but I never understood that. But I think Nigel has proven certainly that he's in the streets as much as anybody. And then he goes out and wins,
man,
right?
It's literally superhuman. It's unreal. Like
I remember you guys had one of the best.
Nobody like that.
You guys had one of the best battles. It still, to me, is probably the best contest I've ever watched, and I got to call it, which was pretty rad. But in Barcelona, when we had Street League 2013,
devastated.
Sorry to bring it up.
No, it's great. It's great.
But I just remember that contest. I remember that course. Everything was like it was all
beautiful,
set up for a great showing, and you were feeling that course, and you were skating so well the entire day. And that big section, you were doing everything. Which I remember that switch front blunt that like put you into the lead. And I'm like, oh my God, Paul's gonna win this. And of course, Nigel with the walk-off hard flip on the very last trick.
I remember that too because he like the wind or something was blowing and he went to go and he had the presence of mind. Yeah, he had the presence of mind and the wherewithal to realize like, no, not good. Stopped and then walked back, reset himself. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like unshakable, you know? And even though I was devastated because I thought I was going to win that one, I'm so happy to been right there to witness that moment with this guy who is legendary and will forever be legendary. For me to be able to say like I went toe to toe with him right then and there, like it's pretty cool feeling to like look back and remember. So devastated in the moment, but you can't not respect that, dude. You cannot like, dude, he took it. Like,
and that's why
that's it.
Right. He had to earn it. He did a trick.
Took it.
He hadn't done all day. That's the other part.
Not even once during practice. Nothing. I don't know why in his mind that was what he decided, but maybe that's just what he felt would. I don't remember what the scores were, so you got to do math in your head too.
There was a lot of math back in the day.
Yeah. So he just calculated in his mind. And that's the thing, dude. He's willing to take the risk for the win. It's either win or I don't care what else happens.
Right. And I think if you love skateboarding and you get to watch a skateboard contest, it's like it's high art, when it gets to that point. It's like, I hate to bring up a memory of you not winning, but I just dude, if you, and I'm telling you guys, fans at home watching this, after you watch this interview, go YouTube that contest, or at least the end of that contest, because that was like as good as competitive skateboarding gets, you know.
It was a thrill, man.
That was a great contest. Well, switching gears, man, before I let you go, Primitive, what's the latest, man? Are we like, what is it, year 6, year 7?
We just celebrated 6 years. April 10th was our 6-year anniversary from the launch. I can't believe time went by so fast. And it's just been a big roller coaster ride, but a big blessing, man. And it feels weird to be on this side of the thing where it's like, where I'm the, I guess, elder statesman, you know. It feels weird to be on that, in that phase, but also I'm very grateful to have been able to have been around that long to be in that stage. So it's great, man.
A lot of pro skateboarders have taken a stab at hard goods and starting their own decks and skateboarding companies. Yeah. Some have had mixed success over the years. Some have set the standard for skateboarding as we knew it. Is that something that you knew pretty early on in your career? Hey, down the line, you know, obviously you've skated for some big companies, from Girl to Plan B, but like, was there a thought of like, man, I do want to take a stab at this at some point?
Yeah. 100%. Even when I was a little kid, before I was ever sponsored, I started a little pretend brand with my friends called Revelation Skateboards. We would sand off our board graphics and write with markers our little logo, and we were going to make our own little video. Like, and I actually even did. My uncle, just like, I don't know, just some random font that I would draw. It was just hand drawn. And then my uncle and I actually started a skate company in like 1999, right before I got on DNA Skateboard, called Mirage Skateboards. We actually made a few runs of boards, and I would go into skate shops and ask them if they wanted to buy some of our boards. A couple of them were nice. We'll put my boards on consignment and whatnot. And like, I had all my friends. We were this Mirage skateboard team, and it was fun. But then when I got a real sponsor, I told my uncle, like, Uncle Dave, I got sponsored by a real board brand later. But so it was something that was always in my blood, like always had a desire to do. But I know myself, and I know that I'm not literally a businessman. I mean, I am to a degree, but I'm not the businessman. Like, I'm not going to be on the computer doing emails, calling manufacturers. Like, that's not what I do. I skateboard. I know how to ride, skateboard, and that's what I bring to the table. So I was fortunate enough to have Primitive already before we made it into a board brand. It was a sneaker shop, clothing company, and I had a nice group of guys and partners that all pulled their weight and played their position properly. And eventually, you know, I loved Plan B. Some of my best years with Plan B and best times with those guys. But I did think, like, hey, man, you know, you only have a certain window of real opportunity in skateboarding or any type of athletic endeavor, right? Like, you only have so many years where you're going to be at a high level. And I was like, well, shoot, like, I've already been around for a while. Like, if I don't capitalize now, I'm never going to do it. I'm going to miss my window. So I made the tough decision to part ways with Plan B and bring it into Primitive and just turn it into a board company. I was like, well, I have this already going over here. It would make sense just to turn it into a board brand. And I brought my pal Heath Brinkley aboard with me. And I always trusted his eye for skateboarding and his heart for skateboarding. And we set out to put together a really awesome team. And we always knew that we wanted that our team, our guys, to be like guys who are pushing the limits, pushing skateboarding to new boundaries. And we knew that was our lane. That was what we wanted. And thankfully now look at the team we have, and I couldn't be more proud to have just the variety of skaters we have, and so eclectic of our team. And it's something that's going to keep me connected to skateboarding beyond my years of being able to actually ride the skateboard, which is really cool.
What I think one of the best things Primitive does is your collaborations. And I'm curious on that side, like the Rick and Morty stuff you guys did is still legendary. I'm sure. I don't know if still got a lines of those, or they're always sold out? They were always sold out whenever I try to get online and get them. But like,
man,
how does that stuff come to be? Take that one for example. Like, how did that one come to be?
So, we have our design department, and we have Greg, who he like, how do I describe it? He, like, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily manage the design department, but he manages like the scheduling of stuff and when things should be done, and deadlines and dates and stuff. But he also manages our collaboration relationships, where he'll do the reaching out to these companies and negotiate the deals or whatever. And that was one I believe that he reached out to and got for us. I could be wrong, could have been one of the designers, but I believe he reached out and made that happen. And at first I was like, to be honest with you, I didn't know much about Rick and Morty at the time. Like, you gotta understand, like, I'm like this, dude. I skate and I almost don't know what else is happening in the world. And I wasn't really too familiar with it. And I was like, I don't know, you guys. But that's where you have to trust your team, man. You got to trust the designers. Were all into it. My partner Jubal, who is co-CEO, he was like, no, this is going to work. And that's where you got to trust your team and know that they know what they're talking about. And they brought it to the table, and it smashed for us. And then Dragon Ball Z, I think one of our designers was really into that. And we just listened to our artists and our people. And sometimes, if it's a good idea, it doesn't matter who or where it comes from. It's a good idea. And that's kind of how it's been going. And we just recently dropped the Marvel Mobius collab, which I was super excited on. We got more Dragon Ball coming out this year. And then we do we did the Kikomon one, which actually was a surprise success for us. So we like to keep the collabs coming. They've been really well for us. It's just fun too.
Last thing for us, Paul, and we really appreciate the time, is as you now are starting to look as this, whatever you want to call it, go out on your own terms, the comeback tour, summer 2020. Let me just put this out there for you. I don't have the power to do this. My bosses are probably be like, Brandon, you're fired. You can't do shit like that.
Don't get fired.
How about next year? Because it's about to hit this month. But let's get P-Rod in Real Street. Can we get a Real Street part from Paul Rodriguez for the Real Street?
Oh, I can't make any claimers. I can't make any guarantees. It'd be sweet. I don't know that I ever have entered Real Street.
I don't think that you have either. That's why I'm trying to extend the invitation. And rather than ask for permission from my bosses, I'm going to beg for forgiveness.
I like that. See,
but
I mean, I'm definitely open to the idea. It really just depends on the status of my knee. I mean, it's strong and it's doing good right now, but again, I'm not going to just rush myself out there and backtrack on all the work that I've put into it. So I'm just being patient, building it up to a point where there's no pain in it whatsoever. And I'm going to go from there. I have an idea of a few things I want to go out and film basically as soon as this quarantine is over. And I'm just going to see how the momentum is. I'm just going to collect footage, as much of it as I can, and then decide if there's enough, decide how to piece it out and what goes where.
You got that Mamba mentality, man. You're just stacking and you're ready to pounce.
Yeah. You stack it. Yeah. That's the hardest part. It's the hardest part is getting the footage. Once we have the footage,
right, and
if we have an abundance of it, then the easy part is deciding, okay, this goes here, this goes there, So, but in a perfect world, yes, I'd love to.
Well, we'll revisit that somewhere down the line. Paul, I cannot thank you enough, dude, for making the time. And I could have made this a 3-hour deal, but I appreciate it. Such great conversation, man. I wish you all the best to you and your family. Blessings up.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Same to you.
And just stay healthy, man.
Yes, sir. Will do. You do the same.
Thanks, P-Rod. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, brother. Take care.